logic behind the T-REX. There are occupations that require one to support increased loads, whether it's carrying a pack, a fireman or rescue carry, a competitive sport carry, or an activity of daily living. One also must be efficient at hinging through the hip, whether it's getting up and down from a chair, a loaded phase of a vertical or broad jump, a sprint get-off, supporting an athletic position over and over, and other loaded positions. The T-REX is a great way to simulate a loaded carry and facilitate the hip hinge through several different movements while decreasing stress on certain areas of the body that we will explore in this video. Let's look at the stress a heavy loaded pack or rucksack can impose over increased periods of time. If you look at the area the straps compress against the body, you'll find vital nerves and blood supply to the arms and hands. The brachial plexus is a bundle of nerves responsible for sensory and motor function of muscles to the arms and hands. There are several arteries and veins in this area as well. A heavy loaded pack can increase the compressive force of the straps against this region and potentially cause numbness, tingling, and discomfort in the arms and hands. The T-REX allows one to train and simulate a heavy loaded backpack or rucksack carry without the compressive force a strap may exert. Other benefits of the T-REX include increased cushioned surface area, which evenly displaces force through the shoulders and back. In comparison to a barbell, there is decreased surface area that may be uncomfortable and there is increased spinal compressive load. The T-REX puts the wrists and shoulders in a neutral position, which may provide more comfort and leverage for someone who has difficulty going into increased shoulder external rotation ranges. The deadlift and back squat have similar stresses on the back. Let's take a look at back squat. The line of force is measured from the load center of mass to the center of pressure through the foot. The spine lever arm is measured from the axis of the low back to the force or load. During a barbell squat or deadlift, there is a flexion torque moment occurring on the spine. The longer the lever arm, the more stress at the lower back. To combat the flexion torque stress on the lower back, there is an extension counterforce which increases the demand on the back extensors and could potentially cause lower back muscle stiffness and discomfort. Consult a qualified strength and conditioning instructor for optimal technique performing the barbell lifts. If we look at someone performing a hinge squat with the T-REX, the line of force is much more posterior, which is again measured from the load center of mass to the center of pressure through the foot, and again the spine lever arm is measured from the axis at the lower back to the force or load. The spine lever arm is much shorter using the T-REX in comparison to a back squat, which means there is a substantial decrease in lower back stress. The T-REX hinge squat posture is similar to the deadlift. However, if we compare the spine lever arm length, we see the T-REX has a much shorter spine lever arm and again a decrease in lower back stress. When using the T-REX, it is essential to maintain a firm grip and lock position with a forward trunk lean to keep the center of mass over your base of support. If you adopt an upright posture, the load center of mass will be behind your base of support and you will lose balance. There is a fulcrum point at the top of the shoulder. Since the load is posterior, it creates an extension torque moment which forces the T-REX to tip backward. To combat this extension torque moment, one must maintain a firm grip and facilitate a downward pull on the handles. This motion activates the latissimus dorsi, which provides trunk tension and stability. As this lock position is facilitated, there is a natural forward lean to keep the load center of mass over the base of support and help maintain balance. These coupled motions create a flexion counterforce and activate the core, which provides further trunk and spinal tension and stability. A neutral spine is maintained due to the core tension preventing excessive trunk flexion. The force from the load prevents flexion as well and provides feedback to further facilitate a rigid, braced core and neutral spine. The forward trunk lean occurs by hinging at the hip. The T-REX Hinge Squat is not a full squat. There is increased knee excursion with the full squat and increased hip excursion with the hinge squat. Again, the movement should be similar to that of a deadlift, a kettlebell swing, or a hinged power position preparing for a vertical or broad jump. A cue to keep in mind when performing the T-REX Hinge Squat is ease to tees, elbows to thighs. This aligns the chest over the knees over the toes. This facilitates a proper hip hinge movement. Master the hip hinge movement, and always be sure to squeeze and feel the work through the gluteal muscles.